All right, 7th grade, welcome back to a rather short lesson because it's simply another formula to use in your geometry notebook. So please get these formulas written down in your notes, unless you got really good memories, and then you can just memorize them, right? Because today we're going to find the volume and surface area of a sphere, all right? Which you might suspect is based upon a circle, so it's got pi in it. And we also understand that this whole thing is based upon a cylinder, all right? If you will recall, the volume of a cylinder is the area of the base, a circle, pi r squared, times its height. And you imagine putting a sphere inside the cylinder so that the top of the sphere and the top of the cylinder and the bottom of the sphere and the bottom of the cylinder match exactly. And the sphere touches the sides of the cylinder. In other words, it's like a tennis ball that you can in a can that only holds one tennis ball exactly, all right? And for volume, you just have to imagine that the sphere is 2/3 of the volume of the cylinder, which makes sense. I mean, you imagine a tennis ball inside this thing, there's going to be some empty space around the top and around the bottom, right? Well, it just so happens that that empty space is 1/3 the volume of the cylinder, so 2/3 what's left is the volume of the sphere. So we see that we can get this formula then by understanding that the volume of a sphere, 4/3 pi r cubed, all right? And you'll notice that that's 1 and 1/3, all right? Pi r cubed instead of squared because it's a volume, not an area, so it's to the 3rd power. There are 3 dimensions involved. And we can use this formula to simply say we're given a sphere with a radius of 10 centimeters. We plug in the radius 10 here into the formula. 4 pi 10 to the 3rd power. 10 to the 3rd power is a 1 with 3 zeros, times 4, that gives me 4,000 pi divided by 3. Then, depending upon what the instructions say, in this case use 3.14 for pi, we substitute 3.14 into that, multiply it by 4,000, divide that by 3, and you get 4,186 2/3 cubic centimeters. All right? And again, that's not an exact measurement because we're using an irrational number, pi. It goes on forever. I mean, we've cut it off. We've rounded pi to say 3.14 is good enough. All right? So understand that this is the formula for finding the volume of a sphere. All right? Now, to talk about the surface area of the sphere, all right, it's even simpler. That's just 4 pi r squared. And again, r is squared because we're talking area, 2 dimensions, right? There is a length and a width on a sphere, even though you don't see it, because this formula comes from, taking a sphere and trying to flatten it out. And if you do that, you get all this irregular stuff, but you get a pretty good approximation of the surface that it might cover. And that's where pi comes in, that approximation. So the surface area is simply 4 pi r squared. So if you have a sphere with a radius of 6 inches, and you want to know the amount of paint it's going to take to coat that sphere, all right, then 4 pi, substitute in 6 for the radius. 4, 6 squared, 36 pi. 4 times 36 is 144 pi square inches. If we want to leave pi as pi, or we want to say the surface area in terms of pi, which is the same thing as leave pi as pi, then that's the answer, but don't forget that we're talking square units. The units in this case, inches. 144 pi square inches, and we move on from there. Right. Really doesn't get any harder than that. So all you got to do is use these formulas correctly, and don't forget to put the correct units. So lesson 111, C to D, and 1 to 10 for your weekly assignment. Bye.